welcome to the Bixby Board of Education meeting, Thursday, August 8th, 6 p.m. at the Bixby Public Schools Administrative Center. We're gonna call the meeting to order. Matt?
Here.
Julie? Here. And Christy is here. We're gonna,
Two board members?
two board members, Amanda is absent and so is Justin. Okay,
So we do our quorum.
all right, so we do have 3 and we can move on. We're good?
Yeah.
All right, so, we're gonna go to number 2, reports to the board.
Pledge first.
Oh, pledge, do we have how to do it? You can do it. Sorry, everybody, we usually have kids, so. All right, so stand, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Oklahoma flag.
Salute the flag of the state of Oklahoma. Its symbols of peace unite all people.
All right, now. Okay, number 2, reports to the board.
All right, we're gonna start off with a real quick recognition. I see Amber and Rodney back there. This one is, you know, both of them didn't really wanna be here. Because they did what they did because they're good neighbors, they're good people, they care about others, and they see a need and they step up and do it. And so, Kendall, I wanted you to share a little bit about your neighbors here and how they helped you, kind of in a period of time when you had a lot going on.
Yeah, I know they're both excited to be here. You know, moving here, a move is challenging in itself, the physical move, and especially when you don't have a whole lot of family around. So I just kind of put out, if anybody has any youngsters they want to put to work, I'm willing to pay, and showed up. We loaded the U-Haul in Edmond the day it was pouring down there. The next day when we unloaded here, the same front came through and it poured down here. So I started unloading after we closed about 7 p.m. Then I look up and the cavalry had arrived. It's like a movie scene. I see Coach pull up and then cars just start coming left and right and kids start getting out. And I think I timed it. It was 42 minutes. That U-Haul was unloaded and it was probably, I'd say 150, but the reality was probably 10 kids that that coach had organized, and you know, just that generosity in itself to take an evening of his, but also, you know, getting teenagers together is a mission in itself. So I thought no better group to recognize than the Flower family and what they represent for Bixby and being a community.
Yeah. And not only fantastic administrators, coaches, and employees with our district, but again, genuinely good people, and that exemplify the Spartan spirit of doing what's necessary to help your neighbor. New assistant superintendent, but it was, it helped a lot. I know it helped you. You were probably tired that day, didn't want to empty that truck by yourself.
I don't remember much.
But thank you both for coming out. And can we get a picture, just so we can post it?
We failed to talk about we've actually coached against each other.
Yeah.
You want to tell that story?
And he reminds me of who won.
We played them in Texas Stadium, the original.
In 2006. 2008.
Yes, when he was at
He
Frisco
was
Liberty.
on the other team.
Yes.
Well,
He's on the right team now.
He's on the
He's on the
team.
right team.
Now we're together.
I'm over it now.
He did like sit in our coaches' meetings a little longer than normal yesterday, so.
I might get used to that.
You might get some phone calls from him.
All right, you guys ready? 1, 2, 3.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Not very much. Yeah.
Come on, sir. I'm sure your son liked all those football players there. I think that was pretty cool.
Yeah, he got a lot of ideas.
All right, so, moving on to superintendent's report.
Well, as always, this is an extremely busy time of year. I've got control of this, don't I?
Yes, you do. Do you want me to click the link?
I want to take just a moment, again, since we're recognizing people, to recognize some of these fantastic people on my team This document, of course, is something that Jess does every year. It just gets better and better, but it's a great resource for our families. Everything on a page, so you literally can find your transportation schedules, everything, and it is very handy. There's a lot that goes in this in terms of the information. But Jess also, over the summer, with communication to families and all the updates and things like that, just to make sure that we're communicating clearly with our stakeholders and they know what's going on. Lydia, Daniel's not here today, but with HR, just the process of hiring over 150 people, I think, both certified and support staff, getting them on payroll, getting all their benefits set up is a huge.
I don't do that myself, you know.
I know, but you oversee the team that gets that done. And Kendall, he's been here a month, but he's already stepped in, got his feet wet, meeting with principals, working on policy, really bringing some new ideas to our team, which is really valuable. So we're very happy to have you here as well. Mr. Gabe, Gabe hasn't found much to do this summer.
It's sad,
It is really hard to find him some days because we've got all these construction projects as well as our normal summer maintenance. And if you've driven by any of your local sites, you'll see that they're in better condition than they've ever been in terms of the lawns. Go inside, they are this close to being ready for school, which there's been some years that we couldn't say that. And so kudos to you and your team, Adrian, and all your maintenance folks for putting out a good plan and doing it. If you haven't been by North, have you seen North on the paint? Do you have pictures today, Dave? Okay, yeah, really looks good. Allison Morris, I'm gonna bring her up here in just a second. She's gonna tell you about some of the things she's been working on with our counselors and our mental health programming. Cheryl Wilkinson in the very back has been enormously busy with her team, welcoming our new teachers, doing all the training that goes along with being a first-year teacher in Bixby Public Schools, as well as all the things associated with adopting a new math curriculum and setting things up technology-wise. So she's been very busy. I wish Amy Renault and her team were here, but again, they have processed how many iPads in the last 2 weeks?
We're at about 1,500.
1,500 iPads to go through that process of getting those all on our system and everything uploaded to that. Make sure I'm not missing anyone here. Mike's been busy too.
We're feeling left out.
Mike, we sometimes take for granted, and Sherry, because they do such a fantastic job with Maricela and our finance team of just doing all the things necessary. And I know there's been some things out there about our school finance, and I can tell you unequivocally that every bit of that is false. And we know the people who do that and do the hard work of keeping us, our fiscal house, in great order. So appreciate all of you as well. So with that, I just wanted to spend a few minutes just talking about some key highlights. Let's jump back to the slides.
Is it not moving?
What's that? Well, back to the slides.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
There you go.
there we go. All right. No,
It's not clicking.
yeah, just come here. All right, that's for the audience, but board members, you have a copy of this in front of you, and this is where our enrollment is as of today. So this is a fluid number. We're obviously taking new students in, and we'll be withdrawing students over these first few days, ones that we haven't been notified of. But as of today, we're at 8,364 students. And I used the number for when I arrived a little over 6 years ago. We were at 6198, so that's a pretty significant growth rate. We've grown 250 students from where we were this time last year. So we're right at about a 3% growth rate, which is kind of where we'd like to be. It's a manageable number. We can easily plan around that, and it keeps our class sizes pretty level without any dramatic changes. If you look at our projection, if you remember last year, we hired a firm to do a demographic projection for us. Their projection for this year was 8,320, so we're slightly above the projection for that. The arrows up above, where you can see in the table, show our biggest growth. So that from kindergarten to first, we went from 543 kindergartners last year. Those are now first graders, and we've got 612. That fourth grade class had 622 last year. Look at that number, 669. It's a big number. And then third grade from 598 to 635. So there are certain grades across our district that seem to be growing even more than that 3%. The largest class right now is that 679 in 7th grade. That will likely be, if it continues to grow, our first 700 class. Probably by the time they hit high school. 10th grade, that 657 is also a very large class. So we've got 2 more graduating classes in the 500s, 11th to 12th grade, and then you see it'll be 600 or 700 for the foreseeable future from there. Any questions on that?
With the growth, I know Bixby is sitting in a more fortunate situation, with hiring teachers. Are we short any spots?
That's a great segue. If you'll turn over your slide.
That was
Well,
not.
it's actually 2 more slides, but yeah,
Okay.
you were a little early. It's okay. This is our class size update. And again, these are based on today. We're still making some adjustments at sites, but these are our numbers. So if you look at Central Elementary, where Julie works, right now we're at a 22.6 average class size. That's for K through 3, that grade band. And then 24.4 at CI. You can see the intermediate numbers are almost the same across the board, all in the 24s. And then our intermediates, 21, East Intermediate had some larger growth this summer, so they're 24. And then North Elementary is at 20.5. The reason why these numbers, and we're gonna talk transfers a little bit when we get into the policy, but we have to be careful because we love class sizes in the 20 to 22. And if we can financially maintain that, that's exactly what we wanna do. Because I think teachers will say 20 is better than 30 at one time. So if we can keep those numbers low, but where we're actually having to be pretty strategic because we've got some kinder classes across the district that are below 20. And what happens if they're below that 20, that's our capacity, which means we have to open the door for open transfers at those grade levels. So we wanna be pretty strategic. We wanna hire the teachers we need to keep our class sizes low, but we also have to manage it in such a way that we're not just opening the door and then filling in with students from outside the district, because our growth is already substantial enough where we don't really need that. Any questions on those?
So even if our gross overall for for kindergarten, say it's set at 500 total district-wide for kindergarten.
It's by site.
But it's by site.
It is.
It has to be 20's the
It is,
number per
right, so
class.
if we have, say, 5 classes at one site and we have 97 kids, we're 3 under that 20. So we would have to bring in 3 open transfers. And they could be we can put them there even though maybe they're in Glenpool. We could offer them that spot in North Elementary because we have capacity. We couldn't turn them away.
Could you, could you have an East kid move to North? Because
Talk about
of
intra-district transfers here a little bit.
inter-district?
Yes, you could.
I mean, you're not bringing in a new kid from out of district. You're just, hey, you live in Twin Creeks, just go to North. They got room, but I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah, the short answer is yes, we could do that. The long answer is a lot longer.
Yeah.
It's complicated, it's complicated.
Easier said than done, I'm
And
sure.
it's, yes, and typically the district doesn't reassign kids. The parents initiate a requested transfer because they wanna be at that site. So if they're zoned to attend a specific site, they have a right to go to that site.
Sure.
And in sort of a programming issue, which we have done, pre-K fills where there are limited spots at certain sites, because there's literally not another space for a classroom, and those kids are offered a pre-K spot at another site. If that is, and for us, that's a district initiated transfer, because we're telling them, we don't have room at West, for example, where they only have 4 classrooms, we don't have room at West, but we have another space at Central if you'd like to attend pre-K this year. For 1 year transfer, district initiated, then you go back to West.
Right.
And typically, family, well, they're split. They're
Yeah.
split. It depends on how convenient that is for them, all those pieces that weigh into a family's decision.
Right.
Okay, we'll talk a little bit more when we get into the policies, because there are some nuances there as well. So Ms. Fryer, to your question, these are our current openings as of this afternoon. And it's those areas that we've been talking about for a long time: special education, math, science, which is the STEM, biology, and Spanish. So grade level elementary teachers, we've been able to fill those positions. But it's just, several of these positions have 0 applicants. There just aren't. So we are already working with, Kim is developing plans for how to handle the special ed issues and how to handle those caseloads and make sure that we've got high quality people covering those until we can find positions. The math positions are tough, just because that just means that those will have to be larger class sizes at both of those sites. We're still looking for a STEAM teacher to replace Mr. Dansby, but we've got a couple leads and hopefully that'll work out. And then the Spanish, again, we had a retired teacher last year that there are just no quality Spanish teachers out there. Support staff, we're doing pretty good. We've got a couple sped paras. Those typically can be filled even after school starts. A couple playground supervisors, a health clerk, and always need bus drivers. So again, anyone know if somebody wants to drive a bus full of children, we have a spot for you in Bixby. Any questions on?
Spanish, so we will still offer it, and they'll have a sub in there, or will it just be larger class?
We're looking at some options, because
Okay.
it may be that a teacher has to travel in 9th grade in high school. Or we may have to, because we have to offer the Spanish 2 offering.
Right, okay.
But because of the changes in the graduation requirements, there may be some students who enrolled in Spanish 1 that when we tell them, you don't necessarily have to take Spanish 1, they may say, oh,
They'll choose different,
I'll
okay.
choose another elective. So our counselors are already working with some of those kids, giving them those options. The last page is simply announcements, things that put on your calendar. And we've got the OSSBA annual conference in 2 weeks. Most of you are going for at least 1 day of that. Our welcome back event will be on August 30th, so please put that on your calendar. We'd love to have you there if you can make it at 8:30 that morning at New Beginnings. We had our press conference for Battle of the Burbs today, but that game will be played in Owasso on the 30th as well. And then another date we haven't finalized yet, but you'll notice the home of the Spartans, or HOTS, sneak peek. So we're not ready for ribbon cutting yet, because we've still got work going on the 2nd floor, but the first floor will be 95% complete. So we are planning a special event for some board members, some other key boosters and VIPs and people, just to kind of get a first look at the HOTS. So it'll be after the team dinner on the 5th. So put that on your calendar. Hope you can make it. And then first home game is the 6th, and next board meeting. So that's really the key items for me. And then if I don't have any questions, I'll bring Ms. Morris up, and she wants to tell us a little bit about what she's been doing. Hi, Ms. Morris.
Hi, good to see everyone. Here, I have a little handout for you, you know.
Of course, you always got everything.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
You don't want to be put, because Cheryl will probably have a handout. Yeah, of course.
Lots of handouts. Yes. Well, thank you. So, my name's Allison Morris. Hi, everyone. I'm our District Counseling Services Coordinator, and I just want to thank you guys so much, to our Board of Education, first of all, for your support of our district and all the hard work that you do. I just appreciate you so much. And I'm also so thankful to be under such great leadership with Mr. Miller and Lydia and Kendall. It's just such an honor to be on this side and work with such a great team.
She had a fantastic science teacher, by the way.
Yeah,
It's pretty much only the middle school science.
It's my middle school science teacher in 8th grade at Jeeps Middle School is what did it.
Some Miller guy.
Yeah, some guy named Mr. Miller, Colonel Miller. But I'm here tonight just to share an update about our district school counseling team and just highlight the important work that we do. This year, it's a huge thing. We got to add an additional counselor at all of our elementary schools. So we have a team of 26 school counselors district-wide, serving, you saw the number, 8,364 students. And the role of a school counselor is often behind the scenes. So I really wanted to take the opportunity to share with you all and share with our community just what we do and tell you more about the commitment we have to serving the great students of Bixby. So school counselors are certified licensed educators with a master's degree and a state counseling certification who improve success for all students. We implement an evidence-based comprehensive school counseling program that adheres to national standards. Counselors support academic achievement, emotional regulation, life skills, and post-secondary success, such as higher education, military, and preparing for the workforce. And this is done by both direct and indirect data-driven services. We're very data-driven. Some of the services include individual counseling, small group sessions, whole group lessons, prevention, intervention, crisis response, grief support, trauma-informed practices, family supports, and a coordination of a variety of resources for students, teachers, families, and our communities. We work with other agencies to unite these resources and services, and they're all aligned to our district strategic plan. Our counselors participate in many hours of training and education each year to serve these unique needs of working with students in the school setting to make sure we're giving the very best. And one of my goals in my role is to provide the best training, leadership to our department, and support for district services and mental health. This summer, for example, I'm proud to show you that 10 of our district counselors attended the National School Counseling Conference in Kansas City with me, representing Oklahoma and Bixby. There were more than 5,000 counselors from every state and many other countries that attended as well. Our Bixby team included counselors from 7 of our school sites representing all levels, elementary, intermediate, secondary, and then our district level. So we just have an incredible group of highly committed and passionate educators who want to make a difference, and they do so every day. This conference was funded by a grant extension that I sent to the State Department, and thanks to Mr. Miller for the extra help to ensure we could access those funds to provide this huge opportunity for our team. So while we were in Kansas City, this is impressive. We attended 170 sessions, and that totaled over 30 hours of learning, discussion, and professional development over those 4 days. We learned about a wide range of topics, which will be especially important to support our district initiatives. So we came back excited to share all about it, especially for those who were unable to attend. We're going to be presenting to them next week. And this experience really just inspired us even more in our efforts and our services to what we do for our Bixby students. The school counseling profession over the years has grown tremendously. I'm proud to be in a district that sees and values this important work, and also integrating mental health education in our school community. So I want to thank you again for your time and just your support of all pieces of our school district. And we have a district team of highly committed and passionate educators who want to make a difference, and they do so every day. So thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Glad you're on that.
All right, now we've got, moving on to Cheryl Wilkinson, Teaching and Learning Report.
And another handout.
All right.
update. It's been a couple of months, but guess what? We're super busy right now in teaching and learning. I have so much to tell you about. It's actually hard for me to narrow down and like pick just a couple of the highlights of things that we're working on. But it's been a busy summer, but it's so good. It's really, I love that my job gets me seen in all of the good part of what we do, just really getting to engage with our teachers, supporting them. And the first thing I was to talk about is today and yesterday. Fresh on my mind is we just finished up new teacher training. So we had 89 new certified employees that we trained yesterday and today. And this is my third new teacher training that we've implemented since I've been in a role over here. And I think we got to rinse and repeat. I think that we have the perfect combination from yesterday and today. Everything just really went beautifully. We've learned over the last couple of years, Jess and I would come back and like regroup and make notes for the next year, and it really, really went beautifully. So you'll see a couple of pictures, two of these with teachers I took this today. We had our teachers come in during rotating sessions to sit and talk to our new teachers and just answer questions and show them favorite parts of the curricular resources that they love to use, and they just had these beautiful, rich conversations, and I just saw these fresh-faced new teachers excited to start school, and you just think in the midst of something that could be very negative, and they were all just, I think they felt fed and ready and excited, so I couldn't be more thrilled with this new batch of teachers coming in. Secondly, I was gonna mention, because this is hot off the press, we are starting an aviation program this fall with an aviation elective. I think we've talked about it. We applied for a grant for the curriculum last fall, which we received. And then we applied for a grant last spring from the ODAA, it's a new entity for me, for materials for the class. And we found out yesterday that we were awarded $7,750 to buy materials for the class. And that includes a flight simulator. So it's very exciting, I know. So we're gonna have 2 sections of aviation this fall. The pathway, the first 2 is a 4-year pathway. So we wanna start with 9th, but we're also offering to 10th grade for this first year. They won't get to finish all 4 years, obviously. But the first 2 years count as a computer science credit, and the 3rd year counts as a science credit. So, yeah, very exciting. Backside of that, Ms. Miller mentioned the Apple rollout that has been heavy on our work minds lately. But all of our pre-K through 12 certified faculty will be receiving their iPad and Logitech Crayon. 9 through 12 who are existing already received theirs, and new 9 through 12 certified faculty get a MacBook to go with our new technology in the new high school building. And all of our incoming 9 through 12th grade students will be receiving their iPad and the keyboard case. So yes, our teams have been hard at work. We had a trainer from Apple in town today who's training our new teachers, and it's just, they're so excited. I had one new teacher saying, I was gonna buy, like with her own money, she's like, one of my big purchases coming in, I was going to go get a document camera. I don't even need a document camera. I was like, no, you don't, you don't need one with that iPad. So I think they're just reimagining how this tool gets them up and moving. You can just reimagine what your classroom can look like with this tool. So it was really exciting. Then finally, Maricel, if you click on that cute little apple, thank you. Oh, no. How do you not have access? Access denied. Oh well, it's okay. This is a labor of love project that our team has been working on since January. And we're so close to being done, but we're rolling it out next Friday with our teachers. But we have been pulling in a group of teachers almost every week, one teacher from each school site for a grade level to represent one content area. So like 4 first grade teachers representing math on 1 week. And we would get a sub and we'd pull them in, and Tanya and I and our instructional coaches would spend the day reviewing our standards-based report cards and all of our standards, making sure we have the standards that really reflect our priorities on the report card, and then discussing how and when we'll assess each of those standards, and then provide feedback for families on the report card. So we've done a full overhaul for grades pre-K through 5, since we're rolling up standards-based grades this fall for every content area. We had our last one on Tuesday, and it's been about once a week we've had since January, and it's, if you could see the slides, they're so pretty. But we have put together now these slide decks will reveal to our faculty that have all been teacher created, next Friday, that now we have a very consistent teacher resource for how and when we're going to assess our standards. And it's been something out of all the projects I've been a part of, this is one I'm most proud of, I think, in the last few years, so. That was it.
Jess, were you gonna try and share that?
I was
or-
gonna try. You want me to change your access so she can pull it up?
Oh, sure. I don't know, I don't think I have them open right now.
Okay. You want me to try to find them?
You can.
What's it called? Which one?
We can let Gabe go and then
Okay.
call you back up. once you go.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cause I'd like to see him myself.
Okay, good.
You may be excited about it. I
Yeah.
wanna see it.
We're gonna look and go, really?
I mean, he says the most proud thing you're proud of.
It really does represent a lot of work. And you guys
Not
might
yet, she's
go,
gonna fix it.
okay,
They're gonna let
but
Gabe
each
go.
teacher group that comes in and we show, they go, oh my goodness, I mean, they're just so relieved. And I think it's because they've been working in building site silos, but to come together and make a district agreed upon document, they're thrilled, and we're thrilled to be able to partner with them to make it, so. Yeah, okay, well, we'll fix that.
All right, fantastic.
All we have.
No pressure, Gabe, but,
At least you get to come up before she shows the grand finale.
You do have some nice
Spread your
slides.
joy.
I
Yes.
do not, here, do you want?
Can you see that?
See if it works.
We're back there somewhere. Okay, this is the lobby floor of, Whitey Ford. The floor itself is not new, but we've tried a new product out on top of it to kind of improve the looks of it, give it a little more glossy look, kind of protect the floor from staining and things like that.
You did it turned out really well.
Oh, thanks. I got it from Thank you. So that's just a little picture of that. This, product was actually
And it's
part
not
of.
working, it might need a new battery. I'll be your clicker. There you
Okay.
go.
See, that kind of gives you a look at the gloss of it. This was actually included in the custodial contract, not necessarily for athletics, but for the district. So this was our guinea pig floor to try it out on, and
Yeah,
the
it looks
results,
much
it
better.
came out fantastic. So, this is the admin building. You see some of the tiles going in now. And then, go ahead, paint, some millwork is also going in. So, and some of the grid work is going in as well. You can go ahead. There's the sidewalk that goes from the admin all the way to the entrance of the ninth grade on the north side, so. That is the Whitey Ford. We had new doors, exterior doors installed on the big Whitey section of it. A lot of those doors were rusting out. They didn't shut very well. There was large gaps, so we replaced those and got them closed in. Go ahead. And there's my building. They are actually working on what we're gonna call the yard. It's gonna be a chip and seal paved area where we keep our equipment and our trucks and things like that. So that's starting to go down, the base for that. That is the bus lane that runs behind Hots, between Tennis and Hots. They got that paved just a few days ago. This is the baseball locker room. It has new paint and new flooring. I would like to see some new lockers in there, but we're working towards that. And that's the offices that got paint and flooring as well. And we did not leave softball out. They had the same treatment, floors and paint. There's their offices. It's a pretty nice upgrade to what they had. And we're not finished yet, but we're doing soccer locker rooms the same way. So they're doing the flooring right now. Paint will come in and we'll be set. And we were also adding those, I think I told you about that last time, giving them an actual restroom in their locker room spaces. So that's all turning out pretty good. This is North Intermediate. I wish it was a little closer picture, but we did the exterior EFS and stucco paint around that. It's turned out really well. It was in really, really bad shape. And if you go by there, it honestly looks like a brand new building now. And that will continue. You know, we're gonna do that on East Intermediate because that's the color that's gonna match the new gym EFS as they go forward, and then we'll move on down the line to other buildings in the district as we go. This is at the high school, some of the tile work around the water fountains. They're starting, there's some of the wall boards going up on that, that's the wood grain look. They're doing paint, they're doing millwork, the glass is going in, as you can see in one of the small meeting rooms in the teachers' offices. There's one of the water fountain areas. That's where you'll be sitting at some point here in a few months. That's the meeting room, board room. There's the learning stairs. You can see the trough running around there. That's gonna hold the glass railings in. And then there's some more of the color. That's the upstairs dining hall. This is East Elementary. We are adding in a wall, building some offices out of one of their larger rooms to give them some more private spaces and offices for sped and different things they need. Now that's just an example. That's at East Elementary. It just shows we're in the process right now of putting in new mulch in all the playgrounds, getting that freshened back up. So that's going on at all of our elementaries. There's the East Intermediate Gym. Not the final exterior color. It's a little too light to be Bixby blue, so we'll cover it up with brick and. And that's about it. Like I said, we're doing finishing touches. We're trying to get out and clean up the little last bits on our campuses, doing the last minute moves and those things. We're in really good shape, I feel like right now, even better than we were last year. You know, North Elementary kind of gave us a little trouble getting in that building, so nothing that major going on right now. We really tried to leave this summer open for our guys to do some real preventative maintenance work. So there's a lot of work that they did that you don't see. You know, for instance, our plumbers went through a building that's aging out and changed what's called a stop. It's the valve you turn off to shut down the urinals and the toilets that were aging out. They wouldn't shut off all the way, so they took the time to shut down the building and went through and changed those throughout. So those are the kind of things our guys need to be doing, keeping up with these buildings. So we really focused on that kind of work as well this
We
year.
learned that lesson at East last year.
Yes.
The water heater that.
Yes. So we're trying to get ahead of it. I know they showed the transportation needing drivers last check. As of today, they're 5 short. Now take that with a grain of salt. 5 short is still not where, even if we had those drivers, it's not where we need to be. We need to continue to grow, get rid of some of those double runs and things. But they are where they can start the school year and get rolling the best they can right now.
And one more thing, just to add to Gabe, we hired a chef for the high school, and it'll be a new 12-month position under child nutrition. The primary responsibilities will be managing the new high school academic building, because it's going to be very unique, have multiple serving lines and all that sort of thing, but we'll have capacity to do catering at that community room and things like that, so we're pretty excited about having that person as well.
It'll be interesting.
Thank you, Gabe.
Thank you. All right, now Cheryl is back. Okay.
I don't know what that.
So each grade level will have, yeah, you don't need to click on that.
Don't click on it?
Yeah, no, that's good. So each grade level will have a slide deck that looks something like this, and if you go to the next slide. And then each content area will have an index of every standard that is on the report card, which quarter it will be assessed, which Oklahoma academic standards are reflected in that standard, and how it will be assessed. Click again for me. Then beyond that, after each index, each standard has its own slide with specific information for how to assess that specific standard, when to assess it, and then there's a rubric at the bottom that shows how a student would earn a 1, a 2, or 3, or 4 on our standards-based report card based on that specific assessment. And I don't know, there's probably 50 slides for each grade level. It's
Huge amount of work.
It is. It's so.
Ms. Fryer, wouldn't you have liked to
I
have
would
that as a
like
first
that a
one?
lot. I would.
Yes, like each teacher, they're like,
We're taking some guesswork out,
Yeah.
not the guess.
Well, it does, I think some teachers are like, well, it's so affirming that, yes, I'm on the
Yeah.
right track, but this is something that we can agree upon.
And it's great to be able to communicate with families, again,
Yes,
where
provide
does
that
this
specific
grade come
feedback,
from?
yes, absolutely. Something we really stress with our teachers is standards hearts, like, we have teacher hearts and we wanna celebrate growth, which of course we do that all the time with formative assessments. And then when we get to this piece, we have a standard that doesn't move. And we wanna provide accurate feedback for where does your child's performance at this day, this time, fall against this standard that's not moving. And then we can reiterate the things that we're doing, because obviously our target is for all students to meet all grade level standards by the end of the school year. It gives our teachers a little more information and more to stand on, and when they're getting feedback.
So when a child doesn't meet that standard and it's, continually not, is that when your instructional coaches, they come in to just, during that time, here's some interventions or some ideas? Okay.
Absolutely. So our teams of teachers meet at least monthly at our elementaries and intermediates, and they come together and they look at any students who are scoring in what we would call a tier 2 or tier 3 on our screeners, so they're scoring below grade level, and discuss like what are some things, some supports we can put in place for these kids, and whether it's a small group intervention during our flex time or during class time. And then yes, our instructional coaches, this is something else I can pull up, another amazing initiative that we've worked on, but they built out an intervention library last year for early reading intervention skills, and it's a spreadsheet and everything has a live link, and each link that you click on, and you pick a skill. So if our screener says we need to work on phonological awareness, then under that section they can click on a link and it opens up an intervention with directions and everything they need to try that intervention in a classroom with students. And then they have hard copies of those when they go into those data team meetings, so they can say, let's try this one, right there on the spot, so that teachers aren't leaving thinking, what am I gonna do? They have something in their hands to try.
It's amazing.
It is.
We used to have to write all those standards down, like, actually, write them in the
True.
group.
Yeah. Anyway,
Thank
yes.
you, Cheryl. That's
Absolutely.
very impressive.
Thank you. Yes, we're very proud of
All right, moving on to comments from the public. Okay. 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 We're gonna start, with Kristen Whitmore. You'll come on up, and then, time, will you put the time for me?
Can I hide out a couple?
Absolutely. And Kristen, were you able to read the comments from the, okay, and understand all the information there? Perfect.
Thank you.
You don't want me reading it, we'll be here.
It takes a while.
Thank you.
No.
Yeah.
Just as well,
Well.
just before, does it matter? I don't know.
Sure,
how to
just the
get
board
on
members,
this.
that's fine.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
Good. Oh, you're good. Thank you.
Okay, hello, I am Kristen Whitmer, and I am commenting on the proposed draft for policy 3115, least restrictive environment inclusion. As you may be aware, this is up for discussion due to the directives of the state complaint 2465, which investigated if Bixby Public Schools determined the educational placement of children consistent with 34 CFR 300.116. The second directive in that state conclusion is that the district must generate, review, and revise as necessary the policies, practices, and procedures regarding the least restrictive environment for students with disabilities. Your decision to approve this proposed draft or not is important, as it must be aligned with federal law. And since the handouts were not posted like last night, I haven't got to go through in great detail, but when I was quickly reading through it today, one thing that really stood out to me that was concerning is in the new proposed language, there's, and I quote, yet not modified to the point the curriculum is no longer the same content. So this language is actually not found anywhere in the federal law or the Code of Federal Regulations. It was pulled from the Oklahoma Policies and Procedures Manual. In May, I submitted a 55-page document detailing these areas of concerns to the Oklahoma State Department of Education. And best I can tell from our last board meeting, these revisions are being taken and implemented into the new Policies and Procedures Manual for the state in this upcoming school year. So further information concerning that specific language can be found at 34 CFR 300.116E. A child with a disability is not removed from education in an age-appropriate regular classroom solely because of the needed modifications in the general education curriculum. One thing that I see schools often struggling with is how do we do this for students who are on OAC? Because that is the alternate achievement standards for students that have more complex support needs. But if you refer back to the Every Student Succeeds Act or the OSERS letter from the U.S. Department of Education that was published November 11th, 2015, it actually indicates that students who participate in OWAC or these alternate achievement standards are assessed by the alternate achievement standards, not taught to. That's also being corrected at the state level per the guidance I had requested they fix. And so it's supposed to promote access to the general education curriculum. Students with these more complex supports needs can participate in the general education curriculum. And you just look at restricting the scope of the complexity or take the form of introductory or prerequisite skills to do that. And so like I love what she was saying a while ago about like, you know, these state standards, and so like these children could also be included in that conversation. And lastly, no matter how great a policy is, it doesn't have much meaning or weight if it's not implemented with fidelity. I have to say the policy that was previously there, or currently there, it's a good policy that the board has. I understand that clearing up some language and stuff, but we've got to be very careful that we are in alignment with the federal law, the Code of Federal Regulations. We're looking at what OSERS has put out because, you know, we want to do what's right by the kids, right? So, and last food for thought, since 1975, okay, did it go off? I'm done.
Thank you.
Well, and normally we don't respond to comments. The board, by policy, typically doesn't, but I want you to know that as we consider that policy today, we will certainly consider the materials you provided with us today. We do have a timeline that the state set for us that may require us to approve a policy, but if that guidance changes from the state, then we can bring that policy back at any time to update that, to make it. So the fact that we may or may not approve that policy tonight does not mean that we're just pushing that door shut and saying we're not gonna change that at all. But we wanna be in full compliance with what the state and federal guidelines are for the serving of our students on IEPs. And so I just want you to feel reassured that we're very conscious of what those guidelines need to say. Right now, we're defaulting to what the State Department says, and I understand that they may be making some changes, but it may be an interim phase here while we transition into that, if we get those new guidelines. Does that make sense? Kind of?
Published this next month, just a vote on it.
Okay.
Okay, they vote on the August meeting, so just.
Okay.
But we're on it, we have it by the state currently, we have
All right,
the date.
we've been given a deadline that we may have to, but it doesn't mean that this same policy can't come back in September, is what I'm saying. So thank you for your input and suggestions.
All right, Lucia and Froling. And Lucia, did you read the comments from the public, the instructions?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, any questions on that?
No, ma'am.
That's great, thank you.
These are my staplers outside. Folded them.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting me be here today. Superintendent Miller and esteemed members of the board, good evening. My name is Lucia Froling. I am the Director of Parent Services for Oklahoma Parents for Student Achievement. I hold an active Oklahoma Elementary Education Teacher certification and have also taught in Texas and Pennsylvania. I'm also a certified Master IEP coach and a trained non-attorney special education advocate through the Council of Parents, Attorneys, and Advocates. I've had the honor of walking alongside families as they navigate the IEP process and ensuring that their students receive the supports they need. I also have the privilege of working with other agencies and nonprofits in training parents and educators surrounding special education and parental engagement. Most importantly, I'm a mom of 3, 2 of whom have special needs. I stand before you today to discuss what inclusion in least restrictive environment means and why it matters. The U.S. and Oklahoma Departments of Education have key indicators related to the educational environment where students with disabilities are placed. Did you know that the state has a target that 71.5% or more of students with disabilities should spend at least 80% of their day in the general education setting? In Bixby, only 52.07 are in this setting. This means that almost half of your students are not fully included. The state target is that less than 8% of students should spend 40% of their day or less in the regular classroom. In Bixby, unfortunately, you exceed this target with almost 11% of your students spending the vast majority of their day segregated from their peers. You all have an opportunity to change this, and I truly would be honored to help. You may wonder why you should and what it means. People who are way smarter than me have spent years researching why inclusion of students with disabilities matters and the positive impact it has on all learners. Dr. Julie Costin puts it this way: inclusion is a way of thinking. It's a deeply held belief that all children, regardless of their ability or disability, are valued members of the school and classroom community. Inclusive classrooms are places where all children are integral members of the classroom, feel a connection with their peers, and have access to rigorous and meaningful general education curricula and receive the collaborative support they need. Additionally, an inclusive environment prepares all students for the real world by exposing them to diverse perspectives and experiences. The inclusion of students with disabilities is essential for creating a more inclusive, compassionate, and equitable learning environment for all students. How can we prepare students for competitive integrated employment when we're not integrating them when they're in school? Bixby is a leader in so many ways. You all have an opportunity to be a change maker in inclusive practices as well, which our whole state does need. And I know that you all have the capacity, the knowledge, and most importantly, you all have the heart. So thank you for letting me speak today, and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Appreciate the data.
All right, our next speaker is Tanner Cooper. Tanner, have you read the comments from the public instructions?
Yes, you'll have to cut me off.
Oh, okay, all right. Did you hear that?
Stands up bold.
Well, I'm ready to be honest.
Hold on,
Okay.
I'm ready, okay.
I'm so woefully unprepared compared to everybody else. I have no handouts. I have nothing written down. First, I would be remiss if I didn't say that Amber and Rodney Flowers are two of the best people I know. We're so fortunate that they're a part of my kids' lives, have been for the past number of years, are currently and will be moving forward, so I can't think of somebody better for the district to honor than those two sitting back there. With that said, it's been eventful the last couple of weeks for a variety of reasons, but as a parent in the district and nothing more, I want to thank all of you, right? And it's super easy to thank the board and thank Rob and Lydia and our new assistant superintendent, but it extends to everybody from our school district administration and staff level, to our site administration, to our teachers, to the maintenance program, to everybody. It's really unfortunate this is such a busy time of year for you guys, and I cannot imagine the amount of challenges and work that goes into getting ready to start a school year. And it's really frustrating as a parent to sit back and see that what should be happening in Oklahoma City to help all of you all is just creating more challenges and taking away from what our focus should be in the basic tenets of public education, which is each and every kid that lives in the district, regardless of race, socioeconomic status, creed, gender, anything like that. It's really, really disheartening that Oklahoma City can't get on board to help our school districts and help you guys. To our financial team, know that parents have no worries, right? There are no worries there. I will leave here to go coach a 6th grade youth football team that I'm missing practice for that I don't have a child on. But it's a long story. But every night it's a reminder, right, that we have 25 boys on our team. They are all very, very different boys in every single possible way. And with the Title I funds, again, what's so unfortunate that at the state level, doesn't seem to recognize that those are the funds that help our kids who need the help the most. Our most at-risk kids for a variety of reasons. Great kids, great families, but need the most help. And to handicap or handcuff you guys in deploying those funds, being able to budget for those funds is, again, extraordinarily disheartening to hear that it's coming from the state level. So thank you guys for everything that you're doing. Thank you for standing up for not only the district, but yourselves. I've mentioned to numerous people, it's a teaching moment for my wife and I, for our kids, that a title maybe gives authority, but it doesn't demand respect. They're just words on paper next to someone's name. Respect is earned, and it's earned every day that you wake up and you interact with the rest of the world. And I will say this, that you guys all have the respect of my household, my family, and I just couldn't be more proud of the district that we live in. And thank you guys so much for everything that you do, that you're currently doing to get ready for a school year, and that you'll do in the future. So I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And counseling services, sorry, Alex.
You got a vote already, so.
Yeah.
If I can help.
All right, thank you, everybody that spoke from the community. Let's see, we're moving on to general consent agenda. Discussion and possible board action to approve consent agenda items number 1 through 15. These items may be approved by one board member unless any board member desires to have a separate vote on any or all of these items.
I'll make a motion, we approve general consent agenda items 1 through 15.
Second.
I want to mention quickly for those in the audience that this is typically when people leave. But you are more than welcome to stay for all the exciting business we have in store for the day.
Wonderful practice. I was hoping it would last longer.
You have to go out and get hot. Thank you, Rodney. As with our consent items every month, these are either contracts or items that are routine in nature, that are renewed contracts, so unless you have a specific question on any one of those, I don't have any additional comments.
No, I've reviewed them, I'm good. Okay, all right, so, let's take a vote. Matt?
Aye.
Julie?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Motion passed.
Never had this happen before.
I know, it's very weird.
I'm sorry. Okay.
It's okay.
You're good. Yes.
Do we, do one of them attachment? We can skip it and come back to it if one of you can upload this. Okay.
We can move on to the finance? Okay,
Yes.
we're good, all right. Moving on to finance, we're gonna start with 5.1, discussion and possible board action to approve the employment of Stephen L. Smith Corporation as financial consultants to Bixby Public Schools for the 2024-2025 fiscal year.
Make a motion, we approve item 5.1.
Second.
All of you know David Smith very well. He's our financial consultant, helps us with our bond planning and all of those sorts of things. So this is just an annual renewal, and there's a cost there, I think.
Yeah, there's no change in it, we just put it on as a line item, so it's official.
I can't imagine
You look at
doing
it.
all of this without
Yeah.
his consultation. He's very smart, and has given us strong advice and counsel for many years.
Yep.
All right, any questions? No. All right, Matt?
Aye.
Julie?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. 5.3, discussion and possible board action to approve a reimbursement agreement between the general fund and the child nutrition fund for the 2024-2025 fiscal year.
Make a motion, we approve item 5.3.
Second.
Just our annual agreement with Child Nutrition to pay their bills, and then they pay us back at the end. I set the max at 1.8 million for this year for payback. Doesn't mean they'll pay us back that much, but that's.
Okay. All right, Matt?
Aye.
Julie?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Go to 5.4. Discussion and possible board action to approve declaring items as surplus to be disposed of per the state laws of Oklahoma.
Make a motion, we approve 5.4.
Second. Okay, we have 2 standing bookshelves and a 6-foot long bookshelf.
And then there was one other list.
That one and.
I think there's a picture if you go. Or maybe there's a picture.
There it is.
Cafeteria tables at East.
They've been replaced with new ones.
Yeah, I think they came in.
Are they
today.
going to anybody? I mean, are we selling them or
I don't know, they didn't
Well,
tell
they'll
me.
try to.
Try-
Liberty Schools is wanting to.
Liberty School? Okay,
Oh.
all right. Okay, questions? Nope. Let's vote. Matt?
Aye.
Julie?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. All right, what do we want?
That's ready? Okay, now we can go back.
Okay, we're going back to 5.2, discussion of possible board action regarding activity fundraisers for the 2024-2025 fiscal year.
You can go to the next, we'll have to scroll and go to the next. Oh, don't tell me it just did the front page. Okay.
And this is what Mr. Patterson
Yes.
compiles, okay.
And it is,
It's
maybe
gonna
I'll
be
try
the
to
same
link
document.
to that will work. That's it.
It's cause it's just the first sheet, she'll have to re-upload.
That's okay, we can come back.
Okay. Alright. We're gonna move on to, number 6, teaching and learning. 6.1, discussion of possible board action to approve an agreement with Operation Aware program for 5th through 10th grade students at a cost of $24,300 to be paid from school counselor course grant.
Make a motion, we approve item 6.1.
Second.
Believe or suspect that most of the board members know what Operation Aware is. It's a risk management, and things like that. This is the first year that we've done it in multiple grade levels. We just happen to have some additional funds available from that grant. And our counselors felt like this was a good use of that funds for Operation Aware. So do you have some?
Well, I was just gonna say, it covers topics like stress management, of course, drug safety, alcohol, digital citizenship, healthy relationships, and healthy lifestyle. So it's overall health and safety for students.
And will they still have a parent permission slip to participate or an opt-out? Of because isn't it, a teacher comes into the classroom, is that
Yes.
correct? Okay.
Yes, absolutely, we'll definitely be
Okay.
doing parent, permission and things like that.
Okay, I mean, my kids participated in it, I just, when they were here, I just wanted to make sure that we're still doing that.
Yeah, we can definitely do that, yep.
All right, so let's vote, any questions? Matt?
Aye.
Julie?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Okay, discussion and 6.2, discussion of possible board action to approve an MOU with Southwestern Oklahoma State University Psychology Department for student practicum experience for the 2024-2025 fiscal year.
Make a motion, we approve 6.2.
Second.
Is similar to our other intern teachers, and so they must have somebody that they would like to place with Bixby.
Okay. So pretty standard. All right, any questions? All right, let's vote. Matt?
Aye.
Julie?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. All right, we're moving on to operations, 7.1, discussion on possible board action to approve a lease agreement with Preferred Business Systems, per their negotiated terms and payment schedules set forth in the agreement.
I make a motion, we approve 7.1.
Second.
So several months ago, Amy Renault and her team went out for bids for renewal of our copier contracts. These are the copiers that are at each of our sites and also at our production across the street and in this building. This PBS is the current contractor who serves our district, and their rate is still the lowest reasonable responsible bid for this. So they were also able to make some concessions on the timing of various pieces of equipment, and that made it very favorable for us to continue with it. So our recommendation is to continue with PBS.
Any questions? All right, let's vote. Matt?
Aye.
Julie?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. All right, do we wanna go back or move to 7.2?
Lydia, are we?
I'm sorry.
Is it?
Are we good,
Close.
Libby?
We're close, okay.
Well, let's move
We'll
to,
just- We'll jump into 7.2, that'll take us a little while.
okay, 7.2, discussion of possible board action to approve changes to board policies as read. And then we'll go over each of these. Anybody want to make a motion?
Make a motion, we approve item 7.2.
Second.
Okay, Madam President, just
Go.
as always, if there is an item where you would like us to come back with changes, if you see a policy that you maybe want some additional clarification on, we can table one item of this. We would just have to amend,
Yes, okay.
right, the motion and table one of them. There are some of these that are required by new legislation that have statutory requirements that a policy must be in place by a certain date, so we'll have to be cognizant of that as well. Most of these are really fairly small changes. The first one up here is 2104. This is our policy regarding foreign exchange students, we made some changes based on just updated guidance. The policy we had was old and out of date. This gives the high school better direction as to the process for selecting who those foreign exchange students can be and working with those organizations. We also did, if you see about down in about the fourth paragraph, organizations are subject to a $2,000 per fee semester. Most of the time, honestly, that's waived but there are some times where the school board may say, you're welcome to come, but there is a fee associated with that. Most of the time, these are good students. They're coming here to experience American life, and we also have students that occasionally travel abroad to do that. So we want to be good partners in that. So most of these changes really are. Can you scroll down a little bit, Marcella? There's just a little bit there, clarifying the requirements. Those are all spelled out. What we're looking for, and then keep going. Okay, maybe it. And then the strikeouts are just old policy. Some of that's just formatting because it wasn't formatted well, and then moving things to make better sense. Revision date. Any questions on that one?
No, our foreign exchange student from Germany, she's in med school, so she was great. Yeah, we had a great experience, so.
2105.
Okay.
Student attendance, we're just changing one line in here. The board, I don't know how many years ago, Ms. Wilson was
I
it?
don't know, it's
A
been
long
a
time
while.
ago.
Bill Coyle was here.
Was really, wanted to put a particular emphasis on attendance and raise that to 95% in order for students to earn credit. That is above what the state requires, which is 90%. And so all we're doing is bringing this back in line with what current statute is for that. So 90%. Any questions on that one?
No.
Okay. 2108. Ms. Wilson, you want to drive this one?
I'd be happy to.
Okay.
This is actually 2108A. In the past, students on IEPs had a piece of our 2108 policy because that was a separate practice by law. And recently that changed so that there is a different drive for students on IEPs related to whether or not, how we consider open transfer acceptance. And things like, it doesn't change in content that much, but it is different in the law now. And because it's a separate law, we were guided to do a separate policy. And so we have put this in place in accordance with the changes in the law. Some of the same considerations. We have to be able to serve the student and implement the IEP, so we have to have sufficient staffing and programming. They're just the same basic considerations, and it requires the district to confer with the sending district prior to a transfer, which we were already doing anyway, just to make sure that we were able to implement everything required on the IEP.
Lydia, does it also add an appeal process?
There is an appeal process that we added, that was not part of the previous practice, so we think that's an advantage, actually. Anytime you get more due process, right, that's better, right? So there is also an appeal section in this, and it's right well,
there.
just above, just above that.
So that's an important change because again, that opens the door for somebody to appeal to the Board of Education, if there was a denial of an open transfer for a student on IEP. That's what you be aware of that. So 2108, which was just the chief.
So there is a 2108 on here as well to be approved, and that's because we had to strike the language that's been changed. So 2108, we were guided to do, it's 3 separate laws that guide 3 separate transfers. One is open transfer with a very specific set of guidelines and appeal process. One is open transfer for students on IEPs with a separate set of guidelines and appeal process. And the third is intra-district transfer, so the internal. And last time we put those together because we didn't have any guidance yet or any verbiage or sample policy or anything on the special ed. So IEP students now have their own, it is separate, and so do intra-district because it's a different law that does not have any appeal by law.
although we went ahead and put one little caveat that you could contact the residency officer if you did not agree with the decision that was handed to you by your mom.
So 2108, all we did was strike
Yep.
the sections related to students on IEP, and then 2108B.
Is the so 2108, we had all of them, and we took the IEPs and the inter-district out, and they're now in their own separate 2108 A and B.
Perfect.
It's not really perfect, but it is what it is.
This-
It's actually quite messy, but this cleans it up and aligns it to what the requirements actually are by law.
And there may be additional changes with this one in
It could be
particular
coming.
because we're hearing different things from OSSBA as they get State Department guidance and how this is really supposed to be affected by school districts. And so right now, we're interpreting the law and policy the way that we've got it written here in terms of what the capacity is. So the way we look at intra-district is that this gives us permission to exceed the capacity in order to
Marcelo, will
allow
you
somebody
scroll a
for
little bit?
intra-district transfer, and there's certain guidelines
There it is.
right there.
Okay, so those are the reasons a school district could override capacity, and the previous set of criteria were the things we consider when setting capacity. But the reality is, for us, as a growing district, we rarely have to worry about the reasons for the set capacity because we are so far over capacity with our internal zoned to go to school there. But we wanna be able to override capacity in certain instances. I mentioned earlier, there are times that we have a pre-K spot in another school, and we want parents to be able to access pre-K. So we wanna be able to override their school capacity to offer them a transfer, but not make that child stay at that school for the rest of their career, right? So we wanna be able to do that. We wanna hire employees and say, hey, thanks for moving all the way from Oklahoma City, and your child should be able to come to school here if he didn't find a home in Bixby, right? So we want employees. So there are certain reasons, and they're listed right there, that we could indeed override capacity on intra-district. But it has taken away almost all of the local control in that you gotta meet criteria now, and it's by law, and that's the end of that story. And principals often wanna do what families wanna do for reasons that aren't covered here. Like they have a hardship because of work schedule and transportation, so they really want their child to be at a different site. We can't do that anymore. So, again, it's not my choice, it's what the law says. So that's what the policy now says.
Questions on any of those? 2144,
I think, okay, where did you get 21 dress code?
Yep. This is not a very long policy, but basically you can see what we've done here. We've taken out some language that was a little bit dated and added some new language that kind of reflects what we're really doing in schools. I'll let you just read that. If you remember back a decade ago, policies like this usually had a laundry list of thou shalt not do this or that, and it was, it just created a lot of power struggles, and really we just wanna give our administrators common sense discretion to enforce dress code based on the safety and disruption of school and all that sort of stuff, and our principals do a pretty good job.
Well, it's changed so much over
It really has.
years.
Yeah, I used to chase down holes in jeans.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right.
That's fun. Yeah.
And sandals. I remember
Oh,
Jason,
I didn't have
you
to
can't
do
wear sandals. Oh, okay. 2150. Kendall, do you wanna talk about this one? I know you inherited this one from Jamie before she left.
Yeah, the biggest adjustment is going from the weekly random testing to once a month. So with the ability to manage that and it being applicable for drivers or parking permit students and extracurricular. We also went in and added, the additional information for not being allowed to attend practices or dress out. So that language is new.
So
that towards the bottom? There it is.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
should-
right there,
For the second.
for the second events.
So, on the practices, if that's during like school hours, they would just,
They would still be marked present if there, but they just
would not
dress
participate.
out.
Okay,
participate.
got it.
Adding a little more teeth to that.
Or would be running down Riverview while practice is going on.
All right,
Next one.
2153. Kendall, that was this.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
search of students.
You say 2150? Oh, there it is down here.
2153. There it is, got on the bottom somehow.
This one just added in the statement for refusal of search. Of course, the key here is reasonable suspicion, and trying to make sure our administrators understand what reasonable suspicion means, because that's the important piece of this aspect. If we have reasonable suspicion and there is refusal to search, then we'll just follow the code of conduct and go according to that.
And was there a law passed that you can now search pockets? Was there more?
Shoes, I think it was.
Shoes, was it? Okay,
Yeah.
shoes. I didn't know that was not an option before until that, okay.
It used to be, then it wasn't, now it's again.
That is up. Okay. All right.
All right, 2161.
This one just adjusted, the days for a suspension plan. For any student that gets suspended out of school for over 5 days, the individual suspension plan for pre-K to third is created by the site level, and then Spartan Connection Academy for 4th through 12th. And clean up the wording on how that communication looks from the district being either the site administrator or SCA administrator. Because most of the time, it's probably gonna be the SCA administrator. Wes would be overseeing that this year.
Primarily in effect for secondary students, long-term suspensions for major offenses. Being able to just put them on the virtual platform provides more consistent instruction for those students out of school. Let's see, 3105, our favorite policy. I think you probably committed this one to memory by now. We're really, I think we just changed one or two lines right here.
Just the one about classroom libraries.
Yeah. And this was adopted with State Department rules, and we feel comfortable adding this and keeping this here because it gives our principals, again, the authority to manage those classroom libraries that a teacher may have. So they can't just pick whatever resources they wanna have. It really has to be within and aligned with our written curriculum for that course. So we thought that was good to keep in there.
Yeah, and I'll reiterate the work that Cheryl's done with her team, is you have it there. You have that set of guidelines for the standards even further to provide you, does the classroom library align with the standards? That extra layer is really important for us to highlight and celebrate the work that team has done.
Yeah, thanks to Cheryl and Tanya, we have now a listing of almost all the classroom libraries. We're still working on a few, but that's a great resource for principals to know just what's in their building and keep us on top of that. 3115 is the policy that we talked about a little earlier. And so these three paragraphs are from the Oklahoma State Department Policy and Procedures Guide, almost verbatim. The second one is actually from IDEA that was copied into the Policy and Procedures. And it talks about the placement of students, least restrictive environment or most responsible placement. So we've taken out the first two paragraphs, replaced that with language that was suggested by the State Department as part of that process. And then on the second page, it's just rewording to be in line with the Policy and Procedures Guide. But as the comments I made earlier, if we determine that additional changes or modifications need to happen to this, we can bring that back at any time and you can review that, especially based on new guidance from the State Department.
So So with that, I mean, I know we can always update a policy. So if the State Department advises, here's our new, we at the next board meeting would update those policies.
It would, but it would require changes in the State Department, because it would, since this was something that the State Department gave us a deadline of doing, approve these policy changes by this date, it would be difficult for us to go to the State Department and saying, we're waiting for you to change your policy before we change our policy.
Right.
And so it's kind of a little bit of a catch-22. If they are revising policy, then they need to finish that process, issue that guidance, and then we'll come back and revisit this and make sure it's aligned. If that makes sense, kind of, it's a little convoluted. All right, 3118 is a pretty simple change. As Cheryl talked about, our standards-based initiative is now moved up to the 5th grade, and so we made that change here. It's just a couple cleanups as part of that policy, since we're changing it anyway. On that one. 3122, proficiency-based promotions.
And it's a very simple change. We had previous, you can see the strike through on number 2. Students demonstrating proficiency, which was defined as 90% and above. However, that's not the only definition. Now it's mastery, which is already included in the policy. And 90% or above, what is actually no longer applicable to those standards-based rubrics. So it's gotta be mastery, and so we just wanna strike that.
And the 90% has always been somewhat arbitrary. Just pick a number. So a student who gets 89 doesn't. So it's kind of, when they master most of the standards, they should have that. 3127, we will spend more time talking about, we wanted to put a policy in front of you today because we have students who, based on the new legislation, are choosing to opt into the new graduation requirements. It's only goes into effect, the new requirements, for the 8th grade class next year, 25-26. Everyone older than that is grandfathered in unless they choose to say, I'd like to go with the new graduation requirements, which does add a 4th year of math, but it also removes the requirement for 2 years of world language, the fine arts credit, but it is one of those decisions that families can make, because it doesn't necessarily align with every student's ICAP, and so we wanted to at least be able to provide that, and in order to do that, we need the board to approve the policy that allows us to do that. But we will spend more time talking about this policy once we, again, get guidance from the State Department. Questions on this one?
RSA.
3133, used to be RSA, now SRA. Strong Readers Act. There were pretty significant changes to this, and Cheryl, do you want to give us kind of a Reader's Digest version?
Yes.
A lot of red and strikeouts on this one.
Yes. I would say the biggest change is they've removed all retention language from the SRA legislation. So there's no longer forced retention for students after 3rd grade. So there's no longer a good cause exemption or a probationary promotion, because there's also no longer forced retention. So all of that language has been taken out, and all students will promote based on our typical rules for promotion or retention. The other pieces are the same. If students are showing a deficiency in reading, we need to have a reading plan put in place and communicate within 30 days, and those things are the same. I would say the bigger changes, the concerning changes for me, we're now required to put a plan in place for students who score below on the kindergarten fall benchmark, and kindergarten's always started in mid-year, not fall. And so, because they're 5 and they're learning how to come to school, so that's a little bit concerning. I'm afraid we're gonna have a higher.
Did you say fall?
Fall.
So right when they get there.
Right, first screener.
Is that
And,
basic?
hun?
Whose idea?
Yeah.
Well, not ours.
Not ours, right? Not anyone who understands the developmental acquisition of reading skills, I'll tell you that. So, yeah, that was one that I was like, ugh. But, they do now allow exemptions from screening for specific students who are served on an alternate curriculum, who have their receptive and expressive language in Braille or sign language, which is great. We've had students before that they just had to sit in front of the screener. We were required to put them in front of the screener, even if it was such a mismatch with skills. And then students who are EL students are within their first year in an EL program. So that was a good shift. There are some changes to reporting. They changed the initials RSA to SRA and IPRI to SLOP. So just lots of language changes we had to clean up. But those were the big switches.
And I suspect guidance again will trickle out. We'll
Yes.
still-
Kathy, our new director of federal programs, has sat in on a webinar this week, and she said there was pages of questions in the comments, and they said we will respond soon. And she said they got those back today, but the questions she submitted, the answers were not available yet. So I'm sure we'll continue to get more information so that we're compliant, but also doing what's best for our kids. Yep.
Thank you, Cheryl. 4129, bereavement leave.
Okay, we really wanted to reduce some of the tight restrictive language on bereavement leave because, first of all, the world has changed quite a bit, and it used to be that the policy only allowed you to go to the funeral of a first-degree relationship or that by affinity, so mother, mother-in-law, brother, brother-in-law. And that's not how families operate very much anymore. And so we really felt like it was more appropriate to say, you can have funeral leave, bereavement leave for this much time, and you can go to a one-day absence can be charged to, bereavement leave or funeral leave for funeral attendance with documentation of funeral attendance. So you go to a funeral, you bring back the little funeral payment, that's okay for bereavement leave.
Thank you. 4135, travel and expenses. These are both, I think this one and 6123 are both based on the results of our federal programs audit last year, and so these were changes that were suggested from the State Department again through Sherry McMillan, and she made these changes prior to leaving. So what's in red there are actual suggested changes that she got from them. Not anything significant, it's just sometimes they like it worded one way and not the way that we had it worded. So it provides like a top one, district will not pay for board member employee dependent care expenses regardless of the funding source. So they felt like we needed that in there. When possible, lodging arrangements will be made using conference accommodations or GSA. So if you're going to a conference that's funded by these dollars, you should go to the conference hotel and not stay down at the Westin or, a more expensive place if you're using federal dollars to pay for it. So again, good changes for that. Any questions on that one? Let's go ahead and jump to 6123 and then we'll come back. Another one. I think the only changes here are on the very bottom. And it's a conflict of interest, basically saying that if we know there's a conflict of interest or potential conflict, we will notify. For example, if we were to get a grant for a program that somebody on our staff or one of the board members was directly associated with, then we would have to say there's a potential conflict. So again, it's one of those things that helps protect us. And then finally, I think 4166. Shelley's doing a great job driving.
I'm trying.
No kidding. This is a change from the Department of Labor related to the standards for what makes someone exempt for overtime. It doesn't change our practice for overtime, it just changes who qualifies for overtime. Our practice has always been that overtime needs to be pre-approved and used preferably for comp time if available or appropriate, but that practice hasn't changed, that's actually a different policy. The definition of who meets requirements for exemption from overtime or this standard is what's changed. And that's changed based on Department of Labor. They've changed it.
It's a pretty significant bump
It's a
too. in
huge
those
bump. It's a
numbers.
huge bump.
So, well, I think that covered all of them.
I still have a little bit of hesitation on the least restrictive environment, just
Okay.
knowing, I mean, in that, if that is what we have been directed by the State Department, and we have to make that decision, we have to vote on that by August 30th, but they don't change their policies, where does that leave us? Can we update our policy if needed on our own?
We can't override State Department.
But we can add parts of there for just our specific district, if there's something that we wanted to add in there.
That was based on federal guidelines that's not incorporated in the state guidelines. I think I'd need a legal interpretation of that. So, again, my suggestion would be, to approve the policy today. We'll take the information we've been given, and we'll talk with Kim and our State Department representative, possibly our attorney, and just make sure that we are in compliance and that we're, that our language is aligned with the right source for that language.
So Rob, can I just add a
Yeah,
comment?
absolutely,
It's
you're more
probably-
well-versed in this anyway
well,
than I am.
The piece for me here is that we wanna be in compliance, we have to be in compliance, I understand that. And we also wanna be philosophically stating who we are, where we're headed. And to get those two aligned is really what our policy needs, in my opinion. And I don't think we're able to do that yet until we know if there's changes in the next one. It doesn't mean that I think that's not important, and it doesn't mean that Kim and I are having conversations about that already, because we are. But I agree with Rob in that we have an obligation to protect the district, that the district is in compliance with the law. But we also don't wanna lose sight of our responsibility to define who we are and how we wanna do things, right? So the reality is, or the trick, if you will, is that we have to sit down and get those things aligned and work, and it's much tougher than it sounds, because it takes a lot of work and time and very specific, intentional effort, I think, and that's just part of what we're trying to work on now. So from my perspective, I agree with Rob, I would answer exactly the same way, not that you asked me, nor should you, but
No,
I
I'm
also
glad you
wanna,
chimed in.
well, I wanna add to
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
that what I think we have to add, Tracy, is, yes, we'll do that, as long as we can continue to keep that balance of staying in compliance, but adding better definition of who we are and what we wanna do, and how we do it. So that's just gonna take some time, and frankly, and I don't mean any disrespect to the work, because it is hard work, it shouldn't just be Kim and me. Kim and I have started it, but Kim and I are not the two voices who need to be at the table. We're not the only two voices by any means who need to be at the table. So I see this as a much bigger process that really, I think will take a little longer than even the state guidelines might. I could be wrong about that, and I hope I am wrong, but I would rather get enough of the right people at the table to get the voices all singing from the same page, and then have a policy we all stand behind, because it does what we want it to do. So I do think we can come back and change it. I also think changing it isn't as important as doing the work. And so I feel like that's where the effort needs to lie.
No, I appreciate that.
Very well said, and I just wanna reiterate, because I know we have people in the audience who, it is, we feel the responsibility to earn the trust of our parents, all parents in Bixby Public Schools, in particular students that have special needs. We pride ourselves on meeting the needs of our kids, and if we fall short in any capacity, we wanna evaluate that and do what it takes to make sure that we're building that trust and maintaining that trust with parents. So I want everyone here to hear that we recognize the concerns that have been brought up, and we'll take that and have those additional meetings and make sure that we are capturing not only what the statute and the procedures say, but also what the spirit of that law may say. And it will just take a little bit more work, but we're going to take care of it. We're gonna do that.
Thank you. Any questions? I feel like I've taken them all, so. All right, so, let's go to, let's see, yeah, we're gonna vote on that one, sorry. Matt?
Aye.
Julie?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. All right, 7.3, discussion and possible board action to approve participating in the Bixby Chamber of Commerce 2024 by Bixby program at a cost of $650 for the candy cane level.
There's a rather abrupt change from very serious topics
Yes.
about import policy to
Is it ready for
sponsoring
candy
these by
cane?
Bixby candy cane.
I was trying to make it light.
Yeah.
So funny.
So, yes, we're asking for your permission to spend $650 to sponsor the
Anybody wanna make a
candy
motion?
cane.
I'll make a motion, we approve 7.3.
Three. Yeah, a second. All right, let's take a vote, unless you have any questions. All
Nope.
right, all right, Matt?
Aye.
Julie?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. 7.4, discussion of possible board action to approve combining the Bixby, school band and the high school band activity fund accounts into one account.
This is from Mr. Parker. There's really no need to have two separate accounts. They operate as one entity anyway. His instructors work at the middle school, similar to local music, and so this is just gonna combine those two into one.
Do we do that with athletics? I can't remember middle school and high school athletics, are those combined?
I do not know the answer to that.
And then you can call it, no, that's fine, I didn't know if that had changed, so,
Make a motion, we approve item 7.4.
okay, vote, Matt?
Aye.
Julie?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Roll back up to 5.2.
Okay, we're,
It's in there now. It's all right.
Back up
okay,
to 5.2.
so we're moving back up to 5.2. Discussion and possible board action regarding activity fundraisers for the 2024.
Can you scroll?
It won't.
Seriously?
And I'm wondering, I saw a second attachment, hold on.
Well, I did a link in case that didn't work.
There we go.
And I know the first time what I did wrong, cause Kendall spotted it, I did that sheet only, but then I moved to the next sheet and did the whole workbook and still did, so. Okay, if you scroll all the way to the right.
Oh, to the right?
Yes, go right now. And then, okay, right there in athletics, to answer your question, if you scroll through the athletics, it just says baseball and football and golf booster. So we have put middle school, high school together.
Oh, okay.
This is a monster spreadsheet with many, many links,
Yes.
but this is the same practice. We have Spartanized it a little bit better with Jess and Cheryl and several other people's help. We've also added a principal approval phase to this so that each principal reviews their fundraisers. Jess, is there anything that you wanted?
I would just reiterate what you're saying about principals is the same for directors. So I think we had some confusion last school year with some of our boosters about really where did the buck stop on whether or not they should do a fundraiser or not. And we as a team, or really DST as a team, I should say, felt like, you know, Mr. Parker's probably the appropriate person to be approving that for fine arts, Kate for athletics, so on. So we kind of restructured this a little bit to where Mr. Patterson's role transitioned more to just make sure everyone gets it filled out, which is huge. I mean, you can see how many there are. And just helping people through the process of understanding the activity account rules and how to, you know, all the things as it relates to that. But we kind of moved the first level of approval to the principal for the site or the director over that department. And then of course they come to you guys. So it kind of relieved Mr. Patterson from having to have some difficult conversations, or say yes or no to a certain entity when really that's more their principal or.
He's definitely a consult and a guide, and
Yes.
he understands activity accounts, so he helps them with nomenclature and setup and submission of those pieces if they need it. But the principals and directors of the departments then do the approvals.
Yeah, it's more complicated. It definitely is a complicated process.
But going through it also allowed us to just really do a cleanup of the template so it matches our procedures a little better, and then also making sure that what we're asking them to do in here matches what the activity manual says. So just kind of making sure that the process where they're doing those steps aligns to the procedure manual that tells them how. So just really helped us clean it up a little bit and take out some steps we didn't need anymore and get in some things that I think will help Melinda from the activity perspective too. So it's just a little bit improved and much prettier.
It's prettier, for sure.
Easier to navigate for sure.
Okay, do you guys have any questions? All right, let's go, vote. Matt?
Aye.
Julie?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
I'm sorry, who made the motion?
I didn't, I think.
I don't remember.
And I think Julie seconded. Did you? Yeah,
But
thank
he's
you.
with three.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna go with that. We'll go with
Matt,
that.
Julie.
All right, 8.1, Human Resources, discussion possible board action to approve any resignations submitted after the agenda was posted.
Ms. Wilson, there were no resignations?
Any resignations after?
Okay.
Okay.
I'm happy to say.
This close, yeah. Executive session, 9.1, a discussion possible board action to go into executive session to discuss an open transfer appeal. Matt?
I make a motion, we approve 9.1.
Okay.
Second.
All right, go for a vote. Matt?
We go, aye.
Julie?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Right back.